Hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name's Justine. This is my channel, Bookish Thoughts, and welcome to my first video. First of all, I know I'm filming this. Planning for this to be my first video, so thank you so much for clicking. Thank you so much for giving me a chance. Um, this is I figure I'm gonna introduce my channel and myself a little bit since this is the first video ever going up. So my name's Justine, and I'm a reader. Obviously, I started a booktube, and I also really enjoy wine and drinking wine while I read. So normally when I end up typing like book reviews on like Goodreads or Storygraph, I've usually had a few glasses by that time. So I figured that's where the name of my channel came from. It's where I'm going to share with you my love for wine and my love for books. So that's the basic premise. And for the very first video, I wanted to do what I'm hoping will be the signature series of this channel, which is a wine and book pairing. I know we always talk about pairing wine with food, but for me, I'm not so good at that. I'm not a connoisseur. I'm not a wine connoisseur. I don't know how the whole tasting notes go. What I do know is the vibe of the wine needs to match the vibe of the book I'm reading. So I've developed like it's not a system. It's just like my own little way of figuring out which wine I want to open while reading which book. It doesn't always work perfectly, so sometimes I am kind of like, oh man, this wine would have been perfect with this other book. But sometimes like one of the books I'm going to talk about today, it works out and the wine just matches the book. The vibe is perfect and I'm just like, you know? So, what we do in wine and book pairings is that we take a wine, we talk about it a little bit, and then we talk about some books that I think match the vibe of that wine. So it's kind of like a book recommendation thing, but it gives it a twist that pairs it with the wine. Just something that I like to do. So without any further, yeah. So let's just get into the first the first experience, and I hope you like it. So the first wine I picked to feature is the Bodegas Aessir Odiseo. The name of the wine is Odiseo. The makers are Bodegas Aessir. The wine varietal is Bobal. It's Spanish, so I don't know the pronunciation. Um, and this is actually one of my favorite wines. Oh, excuse the price. This is one of my favorite wines. Not gonna lie, the first time I picked it up, it was because of the name. I was like, shopping for wines online, and I'm like, this wine sounds fancy. And I was choosing between this and like a boringly named Merlot, and I'm kind of like, you can have Merlot any day. I want to try something that sounds fancy and sounds kind of different. So I picked this up, and I ended up loving it. So um this is it's a product of Spain, like I said earlier. On the back of the bottle, it says most Mediterranean grape, nice ripe fruit, silky palate, good acidity, full-bodied wine. Now, like I said before, this isn't like a tasting notes channel, but I do like to give you a kind of a feel. Like I don't know wine well enough to pair it with food, but I know it well enough to pick what I like. So I still like to give you some background on the wine. Also, it is 13% alcohol. It isn't cork sealed. I've already uncorked it previously because I do not open corks poised in a poised manner, so I don't want to do it online. I mean on camera. And also, I started this already last night, so it's like about halfway gone. But I decided I'd originally planned to pick up another bottle to film with, but then I was like, I got super excited and I'm like, I'm gonna film it tonight. So let's pour some and see how it goes. Ah, so it's a pretty, I don't know if you can see this, it's a pretty rich ruby color or garnet color. I mean, think rich red ruby or garnet gemstones. It smells pretty strong, like it's not in your face, but it definitely has presence, you know, it like it lets it stands up for itself. And when you taste it, mm, it definitely goes down easy. It doesn't like it's not in your again, it's not in your face. It goes down easy, but there is a hint of spice afterwards. Like the back of the bottle says, it is pretty fruity, but it's definitely a more mature fruit rather than what you would get with lighter bodied wines or even the fruit you would get from rosés. So it's more mature and there is a hint of spice. When you let when you take more time to taste it, there's definitely some complexity to the wine, a little something that makes it stand out. So even though it's not very easy drinking, but it's not intimidating considering it's full bodied. Now I normally am a medium bodied red drinker. And but this is one of my favorite wines even though it's full bodied. And it's mostly because of how accessible it is. I find this wine very accessible even though it's very like mm, it's just good. I find it accessible even though it's also complex, you know, not complex again. Don't take this as gospel, but I find it the vibe that I get from this is that it's accessible, but that when you let it linger in your mouth and you enjoy it over time, then it presents more and more facets to it for you to enjoy and for you to uncover. And yeah, so mm, cheers. So with that said, what kind of books would go with this? So, like I said, these are books that are accessible, not intimidating, but also have something that lets you uncover it and something a little deeper, a deeper layer to it. So, I have three books. Two of them I've already read. One book I'm currently reading, but I'm pretty confident um matches this wine. Like I said, I ended up opening this last night, and that's because I was reading this book and I'm like, oh my god, this wine is just perfect for this book. So I'll start with the other two and then let's see, we'll talk about the last one. So the first book that I'd like to recommend to this wine is Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. Um it's a pretty old book. I think it was published in the 80s, and there's been a TV series made of it. I think they're even making a second season. Um, and this honestly like one of my favorite books. If I'm forced to pick like a favorite book that's just a book and not like a series, this is usually what I pick. Um, and what is it about? It's about the end of the world. It's about the end of the world and about an angel and a demon that has stayed too long on Earth and kind of fallen in love with humanity. And it's about the Antichrist, and it's about a lot of things. It's about and I suppose I should give a warning that some of the jokes, some of the writing is very dated. Again, I think this came out in the 80s. And if you read it now, you're gonna be like, you can't publish that anymore. But nothing egregious, nothing. I personally didn't find anything egregious or overly problematic about any of the jokes here. Just kind of like things that probably can't be published anymore at this point. Um, and they did clean up a lot of that in the TV series, and including making it more diverse and more accessible, and yeah. So this is one of my favorite books because it's very accessible. Um, it's very funny. Books I've ever read. But it is very deep. It has a lot of deep ideas that are very profound. It's very profound. And it actually reflects a lot of my own personal thoughts about humanity, the end of times, and morality or ethics, which is typical of the two authors from my understanding. I've read Neil Gaiman, he's also one of my favorite authors. I haven't read any other Pratchett, although Color of Magic is on my TPR. So yeah, it's a good book. It's very fun, very accessible. But if you want to read it for something deeper, you can definitely get an added layer to it. The next book that I want to talk about is, hang on. One note about this wine: if you leave it out too long and let it aerate too long, it will lose a lot of its personality. So I wouldn't recommend leaving it sitting for too long. That's also why I corked it. I used a replacement cork. Um, so don't leave it standing out too long. So I'm gonna finish this over time. Don't worry, I'm not taking shots of it. The next book I'm gonna recommend is Welcome to Night Vale. Night Vale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. Now, I don't know if you guys listen to the podcast Welcome to Night Vale, but Welcome to Night Vale is a very popular podcast that is basic. The concept of the podcast is that the podcast is a radio show um, that is called Welcome to Night Vale, and it's hosted by Cecil, who is the voice of Night Vale, and it's this weird, creepy town that has lots going on and lots of para or paranormal preternatural things going on. And it's like some people draw parallels to Lovecraft. Some I've also heard it like said that if it's the Adams family became a town. Um yeah, it's that kind of weird. It's a little existential, kind of weird, but it's a good kind of weird. If you're into dark humor, it is kind of dark humor, I will have to say that. Um then it's a fun ride. So maybe you listen to the podcast and you're a fan. If you are, then you might want to check out the book as well. Although the book is definitely accessible to those who are not familiar with the podcast, but I think you can manage to enjoy the book without enjoying the podcast. Um, the book is set in Night Vale, and it's there is a story to it, and it's about a woman who is looking for her father. I think. Let me see. Um. Uh. Okay. No, it's about a woman who has always been 19 years old for who knows how long, and then the mysterious man in a tan jacket um starts kind of haunting her or like visiting her, and then another woman, Diane Creighton, son is looking for his father. So yeah, it's there is a story to it, there is a plot, but honestly this book is about a lot about Um, it covers a lot. It's hard to say, but it's weird. It's definitely weird, but it is very accessible, or at least I found it very accessible. It's funny in the same way the podcast is funny, which involves a lot of dark humor, a lot of existential crises, or laughing at existential crises, more like. And yeah, it's kind of about finding yourself, finding your way in the world, making peace with the past. Um, and it's beautifully written. There are a lot of beautiful quotes from here. I dog-eared a lot of pages, which I know a lot of people will hate me for, but is the easiest way for me to keep track of the pages with quotes I like. Because I don't like writing on my books unless I'm doing a research. And yeah, it's beautifully written, and it's it's just fun. Jeffrey Cranor and Joseph Fink are definitely very imaginative, and they created this fun little world. And I think this is as good as any as an introduction to the Welcome to Night Vale universe. So yeah, it's fun. The last book is a book that I'm currently reading, and it's definitely um it's coming to be one of my favorite books. It's becoming one of my favorite books very quickly, and it is Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell. Now, this is one of the books that I actually picked up because of BookTube. I think it was Book Roast's G, who I first heard it from. I heard it from her. Um, I heard it from her book awards of the year, like for 2021, the book awards of 2021. And I think she named it as her funniest book. And I was intrigued because, like, who doesn't love a good comedy? And I looked it up and I'm like, this doesn't sound like a comedy. But I trust G's opinion, and I trust she did disclaim that it was like kind of a dark humor. And I was like, okay, this doesn't sound funny, but there must be something about it. Um so it had been on my TBR, and then Maddie's Whatever-a-thon was announced, or Whatever-a-thon 2 was announced. Oh god, I can't remember um channel name. I'm so sorry. I'll put it in the description. But Maddie's Whatever-a-thon was announced, and I decided to sign up and join. And one of the host's favorite books listed was Traitor's Blade. And so I was like, okay, perfect. I've had it on my TBR and I want to pick it up. So I picked it up for Whatever-a-thon, and I am loving it. I'm just loving it. And it definitely fits the vibe of this wine. I had so much fun reading it last night while drinking this wine. Um, it is funny. I agree with G. It is funny. It's it presents a lot of really deep ideas about society, about what it means to build a better society, about um what it means to help others, about what we value as people, and yeah, it's perfect. I just love it. It's really fun. You can read again. You can just read it as a fantasy, just like this wine. You can down it and drink it and not think about it. So Trader's Blade, I think you can read it and just have fun with it, but at the same time, you can kind of think about what it's trying to say, about what the themes are, and to me, that's really fun. It's an amazing book. I'm loving it so much. I do read slow. At the time I'm filming this, I'm not yet done with it, but I do hope to film my my June wrap up, which will also be my Whatever-a-thon wrap up very soon, within a few days. So I hope to be done with it by then. So I hope to give you like my full review by then. But I'm confident enough that I like it and that it matches this wine that I'm talking about it now. Because yeah, I love it. Um at first I was waffling a bit on what book I was going to include in this batch because I definitely knew Welcome to Night Vale and Good Omens matched this wine. But I wanted to give like 3 books for each recommendation or for each video, and I was waffling really on what to include. I couldn't think of anything that I really liked that matched the wine. And then this book came into my life, and I'm like, oh, chef's kiss. It's just, it's amazing. Um, do I need to tell you what it's about? It's about these disgraced great coats who are traveling and trying. They're basically magistrates. They are trying. They're sworn to enforce the king's law, and that's important. They're sworn. Their oath of fealty is to the law and not to the king. And they're traveling magistrates, and they try to enforce king's law. But then there was politics that happened, and now they're disgraced. The king is dead, and now they're trying to survive in this new world and trying to basically the premise is they're trying to survive, but lots more stuff happen, and it's funny, it's dark. There are lots of trigger warnings for this book. I haven't encountered everything, but according to Storygraph, there's um torture, animal murder, yeah, and there is some off-screen sexual assault, some off-screen, a lot of it is off-screen or off-page, but it definitely touches on a lot of serious stuff. So yeah, trigger warnings apply. You might want to check out the trigger warnings of this on Storygraph if you are unsure if it's safe for you to read. But if you find it is, I think it's a very good book. It's very worth it. I was a little worried about the trigger warnings, but I am loving it, and I'm not finding myself triggered at all. So weigh your own self. Obviously don't put yourself in danger, but if you think you can handle it, I would really recommend this book. It's amazing. So those are 3 books that I'd recommend to go with Bodegas Aessir Odiseo. Those are Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, Welcome to Night Vale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor, and Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell. Those are all, again, to repeat the vibe, they're accessible, but there's a deeper layer to them if you allow it to and read into it. And that's it. I haven't worked out an ending for my videos yet. I'm kind of winging it. But definitely, I hope you had fun. I hope you come back and check in for my future videos. After this I plan to post my July TBR and my June wrap up. So I hope you continue to check out those videos. I will be doing the booktube newbie tag if you want to know more about me and about this channel. Um yeah. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Leave a like or a comment. If you reach this, the comment that I'd like to see is the sword. There's a sword emoji, right? Leave a sword emoji for Traitor's Blade. In the meantime, thank you so much and cheers.